everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tracy Cook, Media Manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. And I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled How to Ace the IIBA Certifications in the Very First Attempt. Today's featured speaker is LN Mishra, ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP recipient. LN is a BA author, trainer, and president of Adaptive US Inc. Today's webinar will last approximately 60 minutes, including the Q&A session at the end. Please be sure to submit your questions in advance using the questions feature of the GoToWebinar software. And I'd like to say thank you to Adaptive US Inc. for sponsoring this event. At this time, I will turn it over to LN.
Thank you, Tracy. Do you see my desktop?
Certainly, LN, we can hear you.
Okay. And I'm going to just move one slide to see if it is working well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Fine? Okay. Thank you. So I welcome all of you to this webinar on IIBA certification. I probably would be one of the very unique person in the world who has done all three certifications from IIBA. So I completed ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. So I haven't met anybody else who has done all three together. I'm very glad that IIBA came up with the certification programs. I started my business analyst career way back in 1997. So that's almost like now 21 years. And there was no certification available, no recognition available to the business analysts worldwide. Because of IIBA's initiatives, companies are paying attention to BAs, and BA profiles are coming up. People realize the value that BAs bring to their projects. So again, welcome back to the session, and let's see what we have. I have seen some people criticizing me, others on LinkedIn and many other forums where they say certifications do not carry any value. It's a strange situation. Either they are not themselves certified, or they attempted and they failed. And that's why they are probably against certifications. If you take a look at the study by Tech Republic, it very clearly says that 65% of professionals found value in being certified. I personally know at least 100 business analysts who have really done excellent in their professional career after being certified. They got into better jobs, they got into better companies, they got into better locations. So do not go away with the mindset that certification does not help. Does only certification help? Probably no. Knowledge is essential. There's no question about it. But personally, even though I have worked as a BA for 21 years, I learned a lot of things when I went through the certification processes. I mean, as a BA, we don't encounter all situations in our life, and a structured methodology like BABOK does give you a very good perspective from business analysis perspective end to end. So do make up your mind. It does involve some amount of preparation on your side, some monetary investment, but I assure you that this certification effort and cost that you incur will pay you back within 1 year, and then you will reap benefits of the certification throughout your professional career, which could be as high as 25 to 30 years. Coming back, I trust all of you know about IIBA, so I don't have to talk much about IIBA. One second, let me see why. Okay. So let me just put it on the slide. So what? Okay. So I trust all of you know a little bit about IIBA, and that's what brings you here. IIBA has been a great institute to work with. I have been part of IIBA volunteering team for about 6 years now. I was part of the question setting committee for Babcock V3 examination scheme as well. And we have a wonderful relationship with IIBA. We are one of the premier partners to IIBA. So coming to the 3 certification programs, the levels that you may encounter, and I trust most of you would have seen this comparison. So I just would do a very quick comparison. 1, if you happen to have no experience or a very short career in BA, I would suggest you to take a look at ECBA. If you have anywhere between 2 to 3 years, you probably should be looking at CCBA. And if you, of course, have more than 5 years, then you would be eligible for CBAP. All 3 exams are based on Babcock, which is available to you once you become a member of IIBA without any cost. And the membership fees, of course, vary depending on the country. If you happen to be in the US, it costs you about $125. In some parts of the world, it could cost you as little as $55. So it depends on the country that you live in. And then there is an amount for application review fee and, of course, an examination fee. The examination fee varies for members and non-members. And IIBA gives you a $125 discount if you are a member on the examination fee. So it actually makes tremendous sense to become a member, because the moment you are a member of IIBA, you get access to a huge amount of content on business analysis, the Babcock study guide, the agile extension, and whole lot of things. Coming down, sorry, I think all the exams are multiple choice questions. So that means you are asked a question and with 4 choices, and you have to choose the correct option. But the question patterns differ significantly across the exam scheme or exam levels. Typically at ECBA level, we are looking at concepts and definition based questions. For CCBA, it's scenario. A scenario could be 4 to 5 sentences long, could be sometimes as long as 10 sentences as well. And for CBAP, you encounter scenarios and case-based questions. Cases are typically a full-page description of a scenario, and you may be asked 3 to 4 questions on each case. The number of questions, of course, vary. For ECBA, it's 50. For CCBA, it's 130. And for CBAP, it's 120. So you may be surprised why the number of questions come down for CBAP, but please realize that the complexity of the questions that you encounter in CBAP is much higher than what you encounter in ECBA or CCBA. And where do you take the test? For ECBA, you can take it from home. So it's a proctored test. So you have to set up your time, and then you log into your computer and take the test. For CCBA and CBAP, of course, you have to go to the Prometric Test Center. And all 3 exams require certain amount of training hours, which is for ECBA, it's 21, CCBA 21, and for CBAP, it's 35. We, as an organization, we provide you the IIBA approved training hours because we are an EEP to IIBA. All our programs run every month, so people join us throughout the world for these sessions. And then there is also a reference requirement for CCBA and CBAP. And of course, for ECBA, that's not a requirement. Coming a little bit to the organization that I work with, Adaptive US is a premier partner to IIBA. We hold world #1 position in ECBA. So globally, there are probably about 600 ECBAs today. More than 100 are from Adaptive. On IIBA V3 scheme, again, we would probably be world's highest training institute in terms of developing CBAPs. Today, as I speak, I think we have more than 200 CBAPs, more than 100 ECBAs, and close to 50 CCBAs. And we, of course, provide significant amount of content in terms of learning videos, question banks, study guides on all three IIBA certification examinations. Little bit about what we offer. I just put a screenshot from our website. And of course, you can see there's an interesting cashback option on your exam as well. We provide something called success guarantee, which means in case you do not pass the exam in your first attempt, we fund your retake fees. So this is something that I don't think anybody else offers. On top of it, we also provide you a cashback if you complete the examination on time. So of course, for ECBA, we take it as 1 month, for CCBA 2 months, and for CBAP 3 months, which we believe is a reasonably good amount of time for somebody to complete the certification examination. And if you complete this examination on time, you actually get the money back. So that's a plus point for you. And we also provide something called an early decision benefit, which means if you take a decision quickly, you get close to $100 as benefit. And the third thing, you also get $50 cashback in case you write your experience about going through the certification examination. Essentially, that helps our future participants to take the examination in a more confident manner. So coming down, we have a learning platform called Succeed, and it's probably one of the finest learning platform that you can get on business analysis. Has got about 3,000 questions, got about 500 pages of study guide based on Babok, and in fact, our study guide is 1/5 the size of Babok. So if you take a word count, you can read our study guide 5 times by the time you read Babok once. And of course, a lot of simulations, videos, flashcards, audio books. It's really a rich repository of content for any BA to look forward to. And there's a good news for you as well. You get 300 free questions, no commitment. It's a free registration. So even if you are not planning to take training with us, still you can go ahead and use this feature where by just registering yourself, you get 300 exam questions. And all these questions have been prepared by people who have been part of IIBA exam committees, who have completed CBAP on V3 scheme. So rest assured, the quality of questions that you get is really amazing. Now let me tell you how you should prepare for your IIBA certification exam. And let me assure you that if somebody is telling he or she could complete IIBA examination with 1 week's preparation, I really do not trust that person saying. It's not an easy exam. I personally have taken them. Many of my colleagues have taken, and I have interacted more than 400 people who took the exam. It's not 1, 2. I'm talking of a number of 400 people who took the exam. So the plan that I suggest to you is to do a self-study using the e-learnings that we have, and then of course attend the prep workshop that we conduct. Then again, continue with the same plan, do the assessments available on the portal, and do the self-study for the next module. Then of course join the prep workshop, and we continue the same process for week 3, week 4, and then so we keep coming up with the new knowledge areas, and at the end of 4 weeks, we help you to get your application submitted to IIBA. And so far, not even one case has come where we did not get a person's application approved. So rest assured, your application will be approved because we understand IIBA processes extremely well. And then finally, we of course ask you to go through BABOK, especially for CBAP. For ECBA and CCBA, maybe our study guide is pretty good enough. And then we ask you to do the simulation tests. And then we also offer you an option to join our monthly Q&A sessions. And finally, in about week 9 or 10, you can actually go ahead and take your examination. If somebody says, I'm going to take IIB examination after 1 year, it's probably too long a time frame to look forward to. So, and based on my experience of interacting with so many IIBA certified professionals, 3 months is a reasonably good enough period. But of course, you have to prepare between 100 hours to 200 hours, depending on which certification scheme you are looking at. So please make up your mind. One of the things that we do to save your time is to go through or listen to our audio books when you are on commute. So if you are traveling between New Jersey to New York, you probably have an hour of travel time on your path train or any other place that you are driving or moving in train, tram, bus, car, whatever. Use that time to listen to the study guide, and that can be a great help in reducing the amount of time that you have to prepare outside your work time. I'm going to cover a few preparation tips for you, and these tips have been collected from my own personal experience and as well from the feedback that we receive from so many CBAPs and CCBAs and ECBAs. So what are these tips? So let me start with ECBA first, because that's the entry level one. And as you know, for the entry level exam, your main focus is on requirement analysis, elicitation, and requirements lifecycle management, because these are the knowledge areas which is very, very close to what you do as a new business analyst. So one of the things we always suggest is to have a good mental map of BA activities. In fact, I'm going to show you a BABOK activities mind map sometime soon. And that mind map helps you to understand how these activities relate with each other, how the inputs, outputs relate with each other. And similarly, we have a mind map for techniques as well. So give me a second. Let me log into the portal, and that can help you to see. Whatever I am talking, you can actually see them. So this is where you can log into the portal. Since I'm a faculty, I of course have access to a lot of courses which you may not have to. So if you go to study guide section, you have two mind maps here. One is what we call task mind map. So that explains you how each input output tasks are related and how the task flows. Then similarly, we have another mind map which we call it as techniques mind map, and it kind of organizes 50 techniques in BABOK into right categories and subcategories. The benefit of doing this is that you get certain common properties among these techniques which you can use it for your understanding purpose. Okay, and this is what I just showed you. Then coming down, you are not likely to get too many questions with diagrams and calculations. Especially from our experience, we have observed that people who are taking ECBA or CCBA do not get many questions on UML. So UML is probably one of the toughest part of BABOK, And fortunately, that's not emphasized in ECBA and CCBA. Coming down, of course, this is what I just said. And you need to understand different roles that are there in Babok and what each of these roles try to achieve. And there definitely is going to be some questions on requirements, characteristics, in terms of they should be atomic, they should be clear, they should be concise. So those understanding is very, very required. And in fact, what we try to do, if you look at our study guides and all, we write it in a very simple way. Say, for example, if I take any section of the book, you will see that we kind of make it really, really neat for you. So, for example, if I just say, these are all techniques. So let me go down to one of the tasks. Let it come up. So usually we try to write in a very simple way. Most of the data that we present to you will be tabular. You can actually see as many possible tabular things that we do. And if I just go to a task, let me show you how a task is written down. 1 second. This is like the CBAP study guide. Of course, it deals with a lot of concepts on UML because that is expected. Is this techniques handbook or something that I opened up? I can figure it out, so don't worry. It's a new version that we just released, and this is even more cleaner. So if you see, we usually write it in a very, very simplified statements. We don't really kind of write you long sentences. So you can see this. Like we try to limit our sentences to 5 to 10 words, not make it so exhaustive like what Babok does. No repetition, no high-sounding verbiage, which is what I find with a little bit of a troublesome stuff when you read Babok, because Babok V3 terminology is really challenging. So we try to keep the terminology as simple as possible for you to understand Babok very, very well. So I just said that. As I said, you aren't going to see much of advanced techniques like financial analysis, business model, canvas, because these are topics for senior BAs. So from this, you can actually make out which area of the Babok I need to focus if I'm going for ECBA. Traceability is again a very important part, and Babok puts a lot of emphasis on that. This is something is a very practical tip. Because ECBA is conducted remote and you are doing it from your home or office, please make sure that your internet connection is good and you have a backup internet available to you. And usually the platform isn't very helpful. It takes time to load and change your options. So usually for ECBA, we say take a little more time rather than trying to come back to the same question multiple number of times. But the same thing does not apply to CBAP, because in CBAP, usually what we say, if a question is difficult, mark it and skip the question. Don't try to attempt questions which are difficult for you in the beginning. Always be observant of time. Yes, so now coming back to on some tips for CBAP, if you see, the mind maps are excellent input or aid for you to understand how Babok is structured and how it can be organized. This is what I just said. And again, leverage the audio books. We have seen or we have received fantastic feedback from people who said the audio books were such a great help because they could utilize the travel time to prepare for IIB examination. So few more. Of course, always understand purpose of tasks. And a lot of people ask me, LN, there are 30 tasks and 50 techniques. And all these tasks and techniques can be linked. What should I do? So my simple suggestion is don't try to remember. And in fact, sometimes I get very strange requests where some people said, I kind of by-hearted Babok and I still failed. I said, why did you try to do that? It's really inhuman on your part to be so demanding on you. I would never try to remember so many things. And unfortunately, it doesn't help either. So don't try to do that. What you need to do is to have a great understanding on the tasks and techniques and try to utilize the strength of the technique to the purpose of the task. If you do that, that makes it a lot easier for you to appreciate what Babok is trying to tell. And also, let me tell you, Babok isn't perfect. So don't get disheartened if you see some element is missing in Babok or you think something is right. It's okay. It still needs some improvement. So don't feel bad or disheartened. The second thing I would also like to tell you, the practices that you may see in your organization can be different from what Babok says. And your practice can be better or worse. But in the examination, you have to choose what Babok says as right. This is how all international examinations are conducted. Whether you agree to the answer, whether you agree to the concept, it's immaterial. Okay, so please keep that in mind. The other point I would like to keep in mind is it is not to choose the correct or incorrect option. It's to choose the best option. So that means there is a possibility that you may get 2 or 3 options which are technically right, but among them, which is the best option to choose. So as I told you, even if you are a person who has not purchased the product, you still have plenty of questions available to you. So if you go to the questions tab, you will get variety of questions starting from very basic level to very advanced level. So try attempting them, see how the question patterns are being created, and what we do, we also give you an explanation for the correct option, saying why this option superseded other options. So use that to benchmark yourself to see, am I thinking the Babok way or not? So for the examination, it's important that you think the Babok way. So this too I have told you, and I also told you that the examination can be quite stressful for CBAP. This is what I have heard from a lot of participants. So go well prepared, and usually you may get first 10 or 15 quite difficult questions. So if you feel the exam is quite tough in the beginning, skip them. Skip those questions and start moving down. Don't get held up on a particular question because you don't understand. And usually my advice to my participants has been skip case-based questions first. Don't try attempting them because these are longer questions. First, finish your scenario questions and then come back to CBAP case-based questions. Numericals are usually considered as easy. So if you have done your numericals, you can actually answer them. And most numericals can be done using mental mathematics. So this is what I just told you. Okay, and then there is some other practical tips which you can also leverage. When to take the exam? Try to take the exam after a short break, which is like if you have a 3-day or a 4-day holidays happening due to some event like Independence Day or some other day. It's a good time to take the exam because you are off from your regular work, you have a little more time in hand, and you can take the exam a little bit more peacefully. And usually I advise not taking the exam on a Saturday, especially if you have worked for the whole week, because your mind is already kind of a bit pressurized. I also typically advise people to take the exam in the second half of the day, because if you are traveling to the Prometric Center, and the Prometric Center could be a little bit far away from where you live. So just to cater to the travel time, it's good to take the exam in the second half. It's also a good practice to go and visit the exam center a week prior so that you know exactly where the center is located. Some more test taking tips. Remember, you are evaluated on each knowledge area and overall. So especially if you're preparing for CCBA or CBAP, you do not have a choice to leave any of the knowledge areas. So do not have the mindset that because I have 5% on this knowledge area or lower percentage on a particular knowledge area, I can skip that knowledge area. Unfortunately, no. This is what I just said. Please visit the exam center a week prior. Okay. Always carry 2 identity proofs, which have your picture, your signature, and they are not expired. So go back to your identity document and check if it is current or not current. Again, I feel quite hungry, so I usually eat well, but it's not a good practice to eat too much before the test, nor go in an empty stomach, because remember, you are going to take for CBAP at least 4.5 to 5 hours of time from the time you left home and you reach the exam center. You should reach an hour prior. The exam itself is 3.5 hours. So the whole process takes about 6-7 hours. It's almost like a full working day. So if you haven't eaten anything, you will of course feel hungry. So don't go with an empty stomach, neither you eat too much. This is also something a lot of people give an advice. Prometric is quite kind of observant of what you do, and it makes sense for you to go to the restroom before you go for the test. To my knowledge, I was provided with a calculator, a simple calculator while I went into the exam. So you can ask your Prometric Center to give you a calculator for any of the computation that may be there in the examination. And of course, I can't overemphasize the fact that during the examination, do not get stressed. I should not be saying this, but I have seen a lot of women folk, they really get a little bit more nervous, and in spite of their best preparation, they don't seem to do well. This is what I have heard from many of my women participants, so take note of that. It doesn't apply only to men, it could apply to men as well. So anybody who gets stressed in the exam usually tend to do poorer. And remember, many of us might not have taken a test for a very long time, and that's why we always suggest that you take all the 6 simulations that we provide in our study content so that you are fairly well prepared for the timing, the level of stress that you need to manage. Okay, some more. This is what I again said. Typically, initial questions are tougher. You always have to keep an eye on time because these exams have lots of questions to be completed within a short time. And it's always a good practice to mark questions for review. And typically what I do is, if I don't know an answer, I would mark either B or C, whatever letter you like, and not leave any question, because there is no negative marking in the examination. So there's no point leaving out any question. There can be questions for calculation for CBAP, because CBAP expects you to be comfortable with calculating gross margin, net margin, volume, net profit. Those kind of numbers you should be comfortable to calculate. And you are expected to know about UML, especially if you are going for CBAP. So I have few minutes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the portal, so that you, when you log in, you actually would see something like this. Even on a free account, you get content from each of the sections. So one, of course, is the courses that you have taken. So all the study guide links and all. And you also get recorded sessions. So that means once we complete our training, I think I seem to have a lot of content. So these are my colleagues who train. Peter is a very seasoned BA, about 30+ years experience, has been part of Babok authoring team, V3 question setting team. So Peter takes a couple of sessions. Laura McCoy happens to be the president of IIBA Central America's chapter. She is a practicing BA for about 20 years now, and fantastic trainer, speaker as well. So all our sessions are also recorded and available to you post-training. So this is something that we give it to you, other than the live trainings, of course. And then if you go to the study guide section, you will see the techniques, the study guide. We also something have called Babok V3 glossary, which is an exhaustive glossary from Babok, because V3 is a little complicated language story, so you have to do that. We also provide you a preparation plan and application simulator and lots of examination tips, like some of the tips I covered today, but this tips document is continuously updated as we keep receiving inputs from our participants. Questions module I showed you. There are chapter-wise questions. There are different levels of questions, like if you want to do simulations, you can do simulations. If you want to do scenario-based questions, it shows you scenarios, concept-based questions. Depends on what level you want to take. Videos are basically the recorded videos for our trainer. Then audiobooks is again a very interesting concept. As I told you, you can actually download these audiobooks to your phone and listen to them. Flashcards are again another interesting thing. You can actually play a nice game with flashcards. So for example, if I just take a match game or a gravity, so one second, let me try doing a gravity game. This is what I like. So you can actually get your gravity started. You can take your difficulty level, and you could actually play a nice game. Okay, so to take care of your tasks. Okay, so you can actually play this game. Lots of games are there. Then back to, so this gives you an answer as well. Okay, presentations are the presentation deck that the faculty uses for you, and that's also available. And we also have a section called library, which is an interesting section. This has nothing to do with IIBA examination, but it gives you very nice templates that you can actually use in your practical BA work. So you have your SRS template, BRD template, and few other templates, NFR template, which you can actually use, and plenty of blogs as well. Sorry. And I think you also get your certificate, progress status, PD hour, CD hour, all these details, including your receipt. Practically everything that we do it through this portal. Everything is fully automated. And as I said, we have been consistently running monthly workshops for US region and once a quarter for ASEAN region for last 3 years or so. Not a single session missed. So you can rest assured. And again, as I promised you, we give you success guarantee that if you work with us in next 3 months, you are going to be an IIBA certified BA. If you don't happen to, we will give you a second chance at our cost. So rest assured, you are probably in the best hands to look for when you are going for IIBA certification. And I think if you wish to read about more about our company, our feedbacks, you can go here and then take a look at our number of CBAP certified professionals, all the people whom we have certified. It's now 210. And this was actually a great moment for today. Hala happens to be the first lady CBAP in Lebanon. So that's like a great achievement for us, that we are making a difference to people throughout the world. Then if you go back and take a look at our feedbacks, all of them are on Google My Business. It's not something that we created, so I can show you. If you go to contact, we probably would be reaching 100 feedbacks very soon. So if I just go here, it's already 93 reviews. And almost practically, we got like so many. Most recent, if I take 1 second, I got it from Hala, then Talal, then Soremi. You can take a look. I think the feedbacks really speak of the quality of training that we do, the quality of our faculties, the quality of our study guide. We are not necessarily the cheapest, for sure, but it's a decision that you guys make, whether you want to succeed in the very first attempt, or you come back and then say that, okay, I failed once, not once. Sometimes people come when they have failed 2 times, 3 times. They have burned their heart, they have burned their mind, burned their money. Depends on them. So it's a choice that I leave it to you. So that's it from my side, Tracy. I would be happy to take any question. I'm also going to put the slide on our contact information. This is the email ID that you can use to reach us, and of course the toll-free number in case you would like to speak to us.
Thank you, Ellen, and thank you for such a presentation today. Ellen, we do have questions, so I'm just going to begin. Ajit asks, what is the passing percentage for CBAP? Is it close to 70% or higher?
We really cannot say. IIBA does not give any number. We trust it to be around 70% because that's what most international organizations do, but there is no official number that I can give you.
Thank you, Ellen. Our next question is from Jenny, and Jenny is asking, can you differentiate between scenario and case again? And I think that was about slide 25.
Okay. A scenario is typically a question which has 4 to 5 sentences. So in case you would like to see one, I can show you.
Thank you.
I think it's a good thing to see it on the system, because the system would have scenario-based questions. So for example, take a look at this one. Don't worry about this status because this is a faculty portal and we use it all the time and we don't necessarily do all the exams. So if you see here, maybe look at this kind of a question pattern. You have about 3-4 sentences in the question and there is only one question being asked. So this is what we call it as scenario. Scenarios are usually 5-line question. When you look at cases, if I go back, let me show you a case-based question and you can see that. Look at the length of the question. Okay, so usually scenarios will stop between 2 paragraphs, at best 3 paragraphs, but a case would typically be 5 paragraphs. So a case is much longer, and that's why there are 3 to 4 questions on a single case. Okay, Tracy, next question, please.
Thank you, LN. Sorry, I'm just trying to read them all here. VJ is asking, does this exam require basic knowledge of mastering of UML or BPMN?
Okay. For ECBA and CCBA, it does not expect an advanced level of understanding of UML. BPMN is not part of the syllabus in a great way, but for CBAP, you are expected to be proficient on UML, class diagrams, sequence diagrams, state diagrams, activity diagrams. So you are supposed to be comfortable. And in our portal, we actually have a section dedicated to UML. So if you see here, if I just click on UML, so we actually have 6 question sets specifically made for UML, but this is primarily for CBAP. So we have a question bank on use case model, on class diagram, activity diagram, data flow diagram, ER diagram, and state diagram.
Excellent, Ellen. Thank you. Our next question comes from George, and George asks, are there any questions on the perspectives on chapter 11?
Okay, officially yes, practically no. So although if you go back to IIBA, they would say you may be asked questions on perspective, but from whatever information we have gathered, perspectives do not form a significant part of the exam. The reason being, almost every question that you write, you must relate it to a task. And perspectives do not have tasks. That's why they are not given that much importance. But techniques are asked in the exam. And what they try to do, they try to relate tasks and techniques. That's how techniques gets incorporated in the question bank. But perspectives is something that you can read, but usually we haven't heard any feedback because in our study guide, we do not cover perspectives. And out of this 400 people, nobody has complained so far.
Thank you, Ellen. Our next question comes from Arjun. Arjun asked references. So you mentioned about giving reference. Who could be our reference?
Okay. IIBA permits 3 kind of people to be your reference. One could be your career manager. That means one who does your appraisal. One could be a client. That means somebody who utilizes your services, which could be an external client or an internal client. The third person who can be a reference is a CBAP.
Thank you. Our next question. This is talking about the program, and Anna asks, are there group rates if there's more than one person trying to get certified in a company?
Yes, there are. What you need to do, you go to home and go to something called partners. And if you go to the partners page, you will actually see a discount given to you based on number of people who would like to join the workshop.
Excellent,
And we also can do instructor-led workshops on premise, but of course you have to give us minimum 10 participants. That justifies a faculty being available to you on your premise.
Thank you, LN. Our next question, it's a big one. It comes from Danielle. Can you talk about the significant differences between the Babok version 2 and 3 and how the CBAP exam has changed as a result of the new version?
Okay. Babok V3 is 100% more than V2. So in V2, we had 250 pages content. It's now 500 pages. It's a huge change. Same applies to CBAP examination as well. The examination has become a lot more tougher in V3. The usual failure rate that we saw in V2 was less than 10%. So usually 90% of the people used to pass through the examination in first attempt. It's now significantly higher to 30%. I keep getting messages. I don't want to name people, and I keep getting messages from my. I'll just show you. I just received a message from a lady, and she asked me what it takes to pass in the exam. And I keep hearing people failing in the exam quite often. And it's mainly because they are not prepared with the case-based question. Some training institutes continue to sell V2 training courseware for V3, which is not right, but they do, which is a sad part. And sometimes they give wrong guidance in terms of trying to remember inputs, outputs. It's easy to ask participants to read as much as possible. We don't ask participants to read as much as possible. We try to simplify things as much as possible. But to my personal opinion, V3 should have been a little simpler document to read. I find it hard to read, and I personally have worked for 20 years as a BA. It's not a small time, and I have been lucky enough to work with 50 plus clients. I still find Babok language to be a little bit over the top. That could have been simplified, and I have been requesting IIBA as well to possibly come up with a simpler version of Babok, which can be used especially for junior BAs, but everything doesn't move as per my wish or my requests. Hopefully in the next version, we will do justice of making it a little more simpler.
Thank you, LN. Our next question comes from Swapan. Swapan asks, how may I access the 300 questions which are provided by Adaptive US?
You just have to go to adaptiveus.com/succeed. It's SUXEED. Just register yourself. That's it. Nothing else.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Massey. Massey asks, are there any statistics that show which certificate is more popular?
Okay, it's a very interesting question. There are different certifications popular in different parts of the world. So if you're looking at USA, Canada, Australia, India, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, Middle Eastern countries, CBAP is definitely more popular. If you're looking at Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, IREB, CPRE is more popular. If you're looking at UK, BCS is more popular. So because these certification bodies come from different parts of the world, different parts of the world actually are more interested in their country's certification, although they are very similar. It's not that CBAP is very different from CPRE or BCSBA, but the popularity lies more with the institute being present in a particular country. For example, IREB comes from Germany, BCS comes from UK, IIBA comes from Canada. So they seem to have a regional influence in a certificate being popular in a particular country. But to my experience, CBAP is the most recognized business analysis certification throughout the world.
Thank you, LN. And on that note, I do have a couple questions coming in about the PMI PBA or CBAP, and if you have any thoughts on that.
I think, yes, PMI PBA is a great standard. It's almost very, very close to Babok V2. So those of you who would have read Babok V2, you will find a good amount of similarity between PMI PBA and Babok V2. It's doing reasonably well. PMI as such is a big institute, but they'll still take some time to get that kind of a visibility, acceptance in the market. And unfortunately, PMI's primary focus is project management. It's not business analysis. So the amount of energy they will put behind PMI PBA is obviously a little bit of a question mark, whereas IIBA is a pure play business analysis organization. So IIBA would invest a lot of time and money in promoting business analysis. In fact, there's a very good standard coming up in another 6 months' time, which is on agile business analysis. There is going to be a micro certificate on analytics from BAs, from IIBA. I do not see PMI really making that kind of an investment into business analysis, because for them, the primary focus is anyway project management. Not that I'm deriding anything with PMI PBA. I work with them. I'm one of the author team for some of the content that PMI is developing. But it will still take another 2 to 3 years for them to really match up to CBAP. They are upcoming, but still some distance behind.
Thank you, Ellen. As I see right now, we're just coming up at the top of the hour, so I will cut us off there. Ellen, I would like to say thank you for today for such a great webinar, and I'd like to thank our attendees for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us.
I'd like to remind everyone that today's webinar, along with the slides, will be archived on the ModernAnalyst.com website within a few days. And I'd also like to thank Adaptive US Inc. for sponsoring today's event. And this concludes today's webinar. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.